Let's talk about the types of reaction. Number 1, combination reaction. Number 2, decomposition reaction, displacement reaction, double displacement reaction, oxidation reaction, reduction reaction, redox reaction, precipitation reaction. Other than these, we have exothermic reaction, endothermic reactions. So these are the different types of reactions. Let's discuss these reactions one by one. Let's talk about combination reaction. Combination reaction is the reaction in which two or more reactants combine to form a single product. That is called a chemical combination or combination reaction. So combination means we know that there are two or more compounds, they're going to fuse and they're going to produce something new. So that is a combination reaction. For example, the burning of coal, it involves carbon as a solid form, and then oxygen reacts with it in gaseous form. It will produces carbon dioxide, right? So this is one of the example. Let's talk about the next one. The formation of water from hydrogen and oxygen gas. So we know that hydrogen and oxygen gas, when they combine in certain conditions, then they will produces water in the liquid state, right? So this is combination reaction. Now formation of salt lime. So it is formed by the combination of calcium oxide in solid form, water in liquid form, and it will produces calcium hydroxide in aqueous form, right? So these three are the examples of combination reaction. Let's talk about decomposition reaction. So what is the meaning of decomposition? So it involves a single reactant breaks down to form two or more product. So it is a production of two or more things from a single thing, right? So that is a decomposition or breakdown kind of thing. Types of decomposition reaction. The thermal decomposition. So when something is broken down into some pieces and where heat is involved, so definitely it is a thermal decomposition, right? For example, the breakdown of ferrous sulfate to ferric oxide, sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. It requires heat. Without heat, this reaction is not possible. Similarly, calcium carbonate, with the help of heat, broken down into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Similarly, lead nitrate can produce lead oxide, nitrogen dioxide and oxygen, right? So here also the heat is required. So these all are heat dependent reactions, so they are called thermal decomposition. Now photolytic decomposition. Photo means light, so in this reaction some kind of sunlight is involved, right? So that's why it is called decomposition, photolytic decomposition. For example, silver chloride in presence of sunlight broken into silver and chlorine. Similarly, silver bromide will produces silver and bromine. So it is also happens in presence of sunlight, right? Let's talk about the next reaction, electrolytic decomposition. Now what is the meaning of electrolytic? So it is because of electricity. So electricity is involved here, so that's why it is called electrolytic decomposition. For example, water can be broken into hydrogen gas and oxygen gas by the help of electrolysis with the help of energy. Now let's talk about displacement reaction. Displacement, what is the meaning of it? Something is changing its position and taking the position of other element. So that is a decomposition. That is a displacement. So displacement means something is getting the position of another thing. For example, here we have iron and here we have copper sulfate. Now this iron taking the position of copper and it becomes what it will form then? That is iron sulfate. So copper sulfate becomes iron sulfate and copper is released, right? So iron is taking the place of copper. So that's why it is a displacement reaction. Similarly, here in another example, zinc is taking the position of copper and forming zinc sulfate. Similarly, lead is taking the position of copper again, and it will produce lead chloride from copper chloride, right? So these are the displacement. Now, what is double displacement? Double displacement means one compound going to the other compound, other element places, and that element will come back to the initial compound. So it is exchange of places, you can say like that. It is exchanging kind of thing. So sodium is taking the position of barium, and barium is taking the position of sodium. So sodium sulfate is converted into barium sulfate, and barium chloride is converted into sodium chloride. So that's why it is a double displacement, because two elements were involved. Let's talk about oxidation reduction reaction. So what is oxidation? Oxidation can be the addition of oxygen. So that is oxidation. Now what is the reduction? Reduction is the removal of, you can say, oxygen from some kind of compound. So here what's going on? Here what we looking at, we have seen that the copper combines with oxygen and forming copper oxide, right? So it is a kind of oxidation reaction because oxygen is added to this compound. Now the process of removal of oxygen from a compound is called reduction. So it is a removal of oxygen from. So the example is like here we have copper oxide and it is reacting with hydrogen, and when this reaction is going on, this oxygen is removed from copper and it is forming water, and copper is now alone. So definitely it is now not having oxygen with it. So it is a, you can say, detachment of oxygen. So that is a reduction process. Now redox process is some kind of reaction where both the things is happening, which is oxidation and reduction, both the things. So here what's looking at, let's see this reaction. In this reaction what's going on, the copper oxide is converted into copper, so it is a reduction. We know that the oxygen is detaching itself from copper. Now this oxygen is added to what, you can say it is added to hydrogen. So first of all, this oxygen is released and copper is formed right here, and now this hydrogen is added with oxygen and forming water. So it is a oxidation because here oxygen is added. So you can say both the thing is going on, so it is a redox process. Here what we see that iron is present with oxygen, but here again the oxygen is removed from the iron, so it is a reduction, and now this oxygen is added to this hydrogen and forming water. Again it is an oxidation. So in this way you have to understand. Now what is precipitation reaction? So precipitation reaction is something where something is formed and settled down to the bottom, right? So that is precipitation reaction. For example, here sodium sulfate is there, it is reacting with barium chloride. Now barium sulfate is produced, which is a solid. It is settling down, so that's why it is a precipitate, you can say like that. Now here we have sodium chloride, right, in aqueous form. Let's talk about exothermic reaction. Exo means release and thermic means heat, so it is the reaction which involves the release of heat. For example, the burning of natural gas. For example, when methane is burned in presence of oxygen, a huge amount of energy is produced along with the carbon dioxide and water. So it is a energy releasing reaction, so it is exothermic reaction, right? So again, what's going on here, it is a reaction where glucose is reacting with oxygen and producing again energy. So it is a respiratory process which is going on inside the cell, which is a cellular respiration. So in cellular respiration what we see, that the oxygen is reacting with the glucose, producing carbon dioxide, water, and what we say, energy, that is in the form of ATP obviously. Now endothermic reaction is a reaction which involves the use of energy. It is not producing it, it is using it. For example, the breakdown of ferrous sulfate into ferric oxide, okay, ferrous sulfate into ferric oxide and sulfur dioxide, trioxide is done with the help of heat, so it is consuming heat, so it is a endothermic process. So hope you got it, all the different types of reactions. See you in the next video. Thank you.